The Joe Rogan Experience.
Like if you went over a guy's house and he had a real doll, one that doesn't move, but, he's like, well, I just prefer that to masturbation. You're like, oh, I don't know. Like, masturbation's normal, but that's one step removed. Like, that's weird. That thing looks really real.
Well, the thing about real dolls is that because they don't move. I mean, I went to the real doll factory, and because they don't move and speak, they're still like a fetish, and it's a very niche thing. You have to be turned on by dolls, or you have to have an incredible imagination where you can imagine them coming to life. The thing about robots with artificial intelligence and AI is that they're not so much of a niche and a fetish. They are a verisimilitude of a human being. They are trying to be a replacement relationship, really. And with a robot, it's much more about the relationship than about the sex, because you can have sex with a doll. The whole point of a robot is that you can have a relationship with it.
Yeah, it's the Joaquin Phoenix movie, She.
Yeah.
That movie? Is that she or her? Her. Yeah, where he has a love relationship with this voice, essentially. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're just talking about it in the physical form. But I'm worried that this is inevitable. It seems inevitable. It seems like if these companies are already developing ones with wonky AI, it's going to be like the difference between that brick that Michael Douglas had on the beach and a Galaxy S20 Ultra. The newest, latest, greatest cell phones. They're just going to get better, and it's going to get.
It is totally inevitable. They'll always be quite expensive. But it is totally inevitable. And there's a guy called Dr. David Levy, a British guy who wrote a book in 2007 called Love and Sex with Robots, where he predicted by 2050, human-robot marriages would both be legal and acceptable around the world. And I think he thinks that's going to happen sooner now. But yeah, I think this technology is inevitable. It doesn't exist so much at the moment, because at the moment you've got these robots that look very realistic because they're like real dolls. And the AI isn't bad, but they can't walk. Walking is really, really expensive to develop, and it drains a lot of power. So they haven't worked out how to do that. That's the kind of next frontier. So you haven't got this science fiction fantasy of like a robot that will come and knock on your door and deliver herself and say, hello, I'm your new girlfriend, or whatever it is. We're quite a way off of that, but it is going to happen. Whether or not it'll be cheap enough for everyone to have one is another matter, but it's definitely going to happen.
Do you think that people will propose laws to prevent this? Like once it starts seeming like it's inevitable, once the general public goes, hey, wait a minute, like this is not good. And then people realize that their romantic relationships, like they're going to be replaced, men and women, and women too. I mean, women are going to be tired of men's bullshit.
I think that's probably true. But then, I mean, I can't speak for all women here. But I think certainly my experience, and I don't think this is a minority view, is that women find the idea of having sex with something that you don't know genuinely wants you to be very unsexy indeed. And it's much harder. Like all of those real dolls, they make male real dolls. They're bought by gay men. Like women, it's very, very difficult. It's not sexy to have sex with something that isn't really into you, basically.
Isn't that kind of the same thing with Playgirl? Like Playgirl, the idea was, well, women should have a magazine like Playboy too. Like, okay, who buys it? Gay men.
Exactly.
Men or girls.
Sexuality is very, very, it's a very, very different thing. But I do think there'll be women who want companions, and so forget about the sex. There'll be women having relationships, certainly with very realistic male robots too, definitely. But in terms of whether or not there are going to be laws against this, there's a campaign against sex robots in the UK that at first was trying to get laws banning sex robots or the development of sex robots in the UK, and now has kind of softened their stance and says they just want proper discussion ahead of maybe making some laws. But the point is, the cat is out of the bag. We could ban it in the UK. People will be making them in Korea or in somewhere, unless there's a kind of global decision not to do this. And there are too many rogue states for this not to happen. So it is going to happen. And always, the law is really out of step with technology. If you look at things like revenge porn, something that we know instinctively is so wrong, it's been really hard to criminalize because of the way that we all live now. Everybody's taking pictures, everybody's sending them all the time. People can upload them and ruin someone's life in a moment. And the law is kind of grinding on slowly, trying to keep up with all of this. And so, for example, in the UK, what's illegal in terms of sex dolls is if you're not allowed to import a child sex doll. So it's the importation of it that's illegal, not having one, but trying to get it into the country just because the laws are kind of so old and creaky. So I don't think actually it's something that we can stop with laws. We can stop it by saying, actually, I don't want this, and I'm prepared to accept compromise in my relationships, and I'm prepared to accept that in order for me to grow as a person, I need to be challenged and not constantly in a relationship where all that matters is what I want.
Episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience are now free on Spotify. That's right, they're free. From September 1st to December 1st, they're going to be available everywhere. But after December 1st, they will only be available on Spotify, but they will be free. That includes the video. The video will also be there. It'll also be free. That's all we're asking. Just go download Spotify. Much love. Bye-bye.